Hey there, welcome everybody to the review of the Panasonic LX100. My name is Paul, I'm from Germany. You might have already noticed my German accent. In this review I'm focusing more on video features of this compact camera because I'm a professional filmmaker and I want to tell you if this camera is suitable for professional or for, let's say, advanced video work. Let's start. So, talking about the build quality and the design, I found that the design of this camera is just outstanding. We have a full metal body and it feels very solid and very good in the hand. Even though I have very big hands, the handling here is quite good. The grip is not that good, like for example with a GH5, but for this kind of a compact size camera I think the handling is very good. Talking about build quality, the build quality is also outstanding. As I've said, full metal body, no complaints about that. Also the button placement and feeling of the buttons is very good, I would say. The only thing that is missing from video maker's perspective is that we don't have a microphone jack here, which is kind of unfortunate because this compact size camera has even a built-in, or it has a stabilized sensor, so it makes it very good for also vlogging kind of stuff, but we don't have a microphone jack, so that's very unfortunate. And for me, I have quite big hands and focusing here with this small focus ring here feels kind of uncomfortable for me, but I think also people with smaller hands will have this problem, so that's the only complaint that I have. But as I've said, it's a compact size camera. And moving on to the display, we have a very bright display here, and the menu, as typical for Panasonic, is very good. Everything is clean and you feel right familiar with everything. Also unfortunate here is that we don't have a touch display, so we can't configure something. We always have to use the buttons. That's also a complaint from my personal perspective, because with touchscreen sometimes is very useful. Moving on to the image quality. I find that the image quality of this camera is really good. We can film in 4K in up to 30 frames per second and in Full HD in up to 60 frames per second. In 4K the image quality is very good. There's actually no difference between my G7 or G85. I think it's just the same. But in Full HD I found, nevertheless, if you film in 60 frames per second or in 30 frames per second, the image really falls apart. I think the bitrate for Full HD is not high enough. We see a lot of noise and artifacts in the shadows, which is kind of very unfortunate. I think the biggest advantage here of this camera is the lens. So we have a built-in leica lens, so really high quality, and it has a minimal aperture of 1.7 to 2.8. So we have a zoom range which is very handy from 24mm up to 75mm. So in its widest setting we have an aperture of 1.7, so with 24mm, but as soon as we zoom in all the way up to 75mm we have an aperture of 2.8. But for a zoom lens this is also very good. I think the best lens from Panasonic, which is the 12 to 35mm, which is also equivalent to 24 to 70, has a constant aperture of 2.8, and here we have from 1.7 to 2.8, so that's very good. And that leads me to low light, because we have this fast lens here, and that makes it very suitable for low light. But as we have a micro four thirds sensor here, and I think the image is still usable up to ISO 1600 or even 2000, depends on, but I wouldn't go any further, then the image starts really to fall apart. Before I forget, really my biggest complaint is the shutter dial, which we have right here. Because we can decide, or we can configure it to 30 of a shutter, 60 and 125, so there's no in between, no 50 or no 100. And that's actually my complaint, because if you're filming with artificial light, you will always see the flicker of the light, and that's because of the shutter. Because if the shutter is at 50 or at 100, you can get rid of that in camera. But with 60s of a shutter or 125, you always have the problem with the flicker of the light, and you can get rid of that in post, but it's kind of hard, I found out, and I want to get rid of that in camera. So in total, who's this camera for? Yeah, I would say for vlogging you can use it, of course, but with a built-in microphone it's not always that good, so you should use a lapel mic or something like that. And compact size, it's really good for filming when you are traveling. It has a stabilized sensor, which is really good. The lens is really good. The image quality out of it is really good. And I think it's the best camera, compact size camera for traveling. Also, if you want to film family stuff or everything else, the size is really handy. So for me, I found out for that kind of filming stuff, it is very good. But if you're kind of more an advanced filmmaker and you want to use it for YouTube videos and anything and that stuff, I would recommend you to use a G85 or even G7, which you have a microphone jack and you can swap lenses around. That's, I think, kind of more kind for that. So that was my review of the Panasonic LX100. Please tell me in the comments below, what do you think about this camera? And if you liked my review, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and please consider to subscribe. See you guys in my very next video. Cheers!